Kings Island opens for the 2025 season 2 weeks from the recording of this episode for Season Pass Preview Day. But on that day, will the world's longest wooden roller coaster, the Beast, be prowling and growling? Hello, everyone. Alongside Ryan Sir, I'm Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are, and that's who we care about. Hey, let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. Shout out to Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Stephen Hornack, Eric Grau, Ian Crawford, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, and our newest Prestige member, Dakota Cole. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the content, exclusive videos, exclusive live streams, and hey, some tiers you can get some free stuff.
Ryan, on March 18th, Kings Island posted on its Facebook and X and a couple other different social channels, pictures of the Beast. It's getting 1,600 feet of track refurbishments during the off season.
Yeah.
And after they posted that, several people reached out to me and you and through the Tower Topics channels, asking us if these photos were taken on March 18th. Is that ride going to be ready to go on Season Pass Preview Day? Which is a great question, because there's a lot of work to be done looking at these photos in a short time to get there. And not only do you have to complete the track work, but you got to complete all the cycles, all the test runs. You got to have the state come out and certify the ride. So those were legitimate questions about whether the Beast would be open when the park opens for the 2025 season in just a couple of weeks. So we reached out to Kings Island's PR rep, Chad Showalter. We sent an email to see if we could get any kind of an update on this, because it's something guests visiting the park that weekend are going to want to know. So Ryan, what did the email say?
Well, this is what the email said, just to clarify, because, we've reached out a couple times and probably people wonder how we're approaching this. But tell me where our flaw is. I said, for audio listeners, hi, Chad. I hope you're doing well. Listeners of Tower Topics have been asking about the status of the Beast for Season Pass Preview Day and Opening Day. Recent social media posts from Kings Island showing track work suggest there's still a significant work to be completed, along with the required test cycles before state certification. Given the timeline, there's understandable concern about whether it will be ready. I said we'd appreciate your response by your deadline, which is April 1st at 4 p.m., which gave him about 3 days.
3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
And what was the response?
This is what Chad had to say. So you can see we're for 5.
You reached out with legitimate questions.
Mm-hmm.
Guest, would want to know before they made a visit to Kings Island, some different changes that we had seen with, the access policies, just different things that are important to the guest, legitimate questions. And we continue to just get the crickets. I don't get it. I mean, whether he wants to acknowledge it or not, we're an outlet now. We've got a pretty good following. It's people that are Kings Island fans.
Right.
In some ways, more people that are Kings Island fans specifically are tuned into these podcasts and some of these other outlets that, if they'd sent that same email, they would have got a response probably within a couple of hours.
Where my head goes with this? Like, forget us, because, you can make that argument that, like, oh, they're just some podcasts or just 2 guys or whatever. The thing that bothers me is that there's so many people, hundreds of people, full-time, part-time, seasonal, working at the park right now, working 12 hours, 14 hours to get that park ready for opening, so it can look the best it possibly can in a couple of weeks for Season Pass Preview and Opening Day. And there's one person that somehow gets away with not doing their job, not showing up, or whatever. I don't know what's going on. The email didn't bounce back, so I assume they still work there. But I think that's like the biggest like atrocity ever. Just looking at all these people that it's opening day for us, and we show up and they're already exhausted. And the only exception is one person that chooses not to do their job.
But they still get paid for it.
They still get paid for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, it's people want to know. They're asking the questions. I mean, I've seen it on some of the posts that the park has made. You know, they're putting these different things out there. And, hey, you have any update on the beast? So it's not just, you know, we're just not making this up. People are asking. They've asked us. They're asking on the park page. You know, I don't know. Maybe if we had copied, you know, all the local media, including like Spectrum One, on that email, you know, maybe we get a response, or at least, you know, some of the stations follow up and ask the same question that we did, and they get a response. And that way, yes, no matter what it would take to let people know before they go, if they're excited about getting those first beast rides end of the year and that's not ready to go opening weekend, that's, you know, kind of a disappointment for them, because that's what they were excited about going there. They had no idea that it wasn't going to be ready. Now it might be, we don't know. That's why we asked the question. Is it, isn't it? Is it questionable? You know, just give us an update.
Yeah, I mean, the least you can do, while everybody else is cleaning and preparing and training people, the least you can do is say, yes, it's going to open. No, it's not going to open, or we don't know yet. Just do your job, bro.
Transparency is not king anymore at the park, is it?
No.
Or in the chain, as we're finding, as different rides close without any kind of advance for guests, and different things are changing, you know, at the last minute with no updates. You know, people go to the park only to find that this is what's happened with some of the parks that have already opened this year. So the transparency, you know, it definitely needs to step up a notch as these parks are opening during the season.
Yeah, now more than ever, Kings Island is not properly communicating within itself or to the public.
And what are you accomplishing by that? If you say, let's put yourself in Chad's shoes. What are you accomplishing by not doing your job, not responding when there are inquiries from media outlets?
When there's nothing to do, that's what you do. I think there's, I don't want to, I've never worked for the parks. I've never worked with any of the individuals at the park. I mean, I've worked with you, I guess, independently. But from the outside looking in, it's probably a little bit of laziness in there. I feel like it maybe if your boss and their boss are both in a different country, you can get away with not really doing anything at all. If you've got two different parks under your belt, you can claim that you're doing something for the other when the first one needs something to get out of doing the first thing. Well played.
Yeah, it's just like I said, we say at the beginning of every show, we're a podcast by Kings Island fans, for Kings Island fans. You've sent us the questions. We have asked those questions to the person that would know the answer to those questions, and we just can't get an answer. Now, there's other ways we can go about that, and we can get confirmation, and it's going to be other people giving us that. But we at least wanted to extend the courtesy to the point person for communication. But there's going to be other ways that we can go about it, and that's probably what we're going to have to do.
Well, that's kind of the direction we've been going, you know, when, because if you look at like news outlets and stuff, let's say one he responds to, let's say Spectrum One. Let's just use them as an example because they come out to the park with their phones. And, you know, if I wrote to Spectrum One and I said, the beast is there, I've heard that it looks like the beast isn't going to open. And they reached out to him and he said, we don't know yet. That would be a non-story because they got a response and there's nothing there. But when it comes down to, we're hearing from different sources that like, hey, it's a real possibility it's not going to be ready for opening weekend. And then the park is completely disambiguous. That's when it's kind of like, well, let's speculate. Like, what does it mean if the beast isn't ready? Like, you know, it just turns a mountain or molehill into a mountain.
Yeah, I mean, all you have to do is just, you know, there's a lot of work going on with the beast. You know, we hope that it's ready to go for opening day. We'll have more information on as we get closer to the date.
Yeah,
that's all you need to say, you know. And but you know, we appreciate everybody that has reached out to us, asking those questions, like, is the Beast going to be ready to go? They've had questions about other things in the park. We were hearing about, um, Extreme Sky Flyer, wasn't going to be back. So we were, looking into that information, got no answers. But we went ahead and said it was going anyway because we knew that it
Right.
was going to be dismantled and not ready to go. But all we can do is extend the courtesy and hope that one day they decide to be a pro and just respond and take out personal feelings and just do your job. If somebody contacts you with something, just answer the question. You don't have to like the people asking the question, but your job is still to answer those questions.
Well, my thought is this: if you work at McDonald's and you don't like the person who walks in the door, then do you get to not serve them? Like, is that the way this works? I mean, I imagine the pettiness that's involved with that is pretty astounding, but
Yeah, but I've never seen. I mean, I've been doing this stuff for more than 30 years in terms of being in PR, working with a lot of PR people, countless news media outlets and things, and just have been around it, pretty much 40 plus years. And I've never seen anyone act in this fashion where they're just so, against, a couple individuals or other individuals. I mean, we're not the only ones that this happens to. I mean, there are others that
it's a growing list, unfortunately.
Yeah. There's a list of people that are on the outside that just, he won't work with. But I've never seen anyone do that, in a professional position where, you still had to do your job. I mean,
Yeah.
when I'll use, Rob Butcher, Cincinnati Reds, long time PR guy, recently retired. There were reporters that he did not like working with, throughout
Sure.
Major League Baseball, just did not like them. But he never denied like an interview request with a player, a manager, somebody from the front office because he didn't like that reporter. Never denied that. He still did his job.
Yeah, he still did his job. He
Still
still
did
earned
his
his
job,
paycheck.
exactly. So I mean, it's just Rob and I used to have conversations about that kind of stuff too, about different reporters and how do you deal with that? When there's different things, or they write stories that you're not happy about as an organization. And that was back in the '90s. When he first got to the Reds. I remember we went to lunch at Willie's when it was in Covington. And we were talking about those different kind of scenarios and things. But you never want to just totally blow people off. You at least want to give a response and just be a pro. And hopefully, someday that either they decide to be that or there's someone else in place that is that.
Yeah, I'm not even like hoping we will talk about the Beast, by the way. We will talk about the Beast. But I'm honestly, it's more fun for them not to control the narrative in that way. So, when they don't respond, and then we can have the speculation of will it open, won't it open? That's almost more fun than having an answer. So
It can be, but I mean, but I'm going to go back and put myself in his shoes. And when I was doing PR for the park, I certainly wasn't going to allow that to happen. To have some outlet like AI Central control the narrative. I was going to make sure that the right information was out there.
Well, so I'm not saying it would work to his advantage at all, but I'm saying like it's almost like we can build the whole narrative around the speculation because he chooses not to do his job while, by the way, everybody else is working 12 or 14 hours a day. Let's throw that.
And we hope the Beast is open.
Yeah.
We have no way to know if it is or it isn't. We just know that if those pictures taken on March 18th, on that post was March 18th, and if those photos were taken that day, the day before, there's a lot of work to be done, and in order to have this ride ready to go for the start of the season. And that includes just not finishing the track work, but just doing all those test cycles and getting the state to come out and get the ride certified. I mean, I think it'll come down to the wire and getting it ready to go. But it is a legitimate question that Kings Island fans have about this ride, the Beast. is it going to be ready to go? Now, for you, Ryan, opening weekend when you go, if it's not running, is that going to impact your visit at all?
No, but I'm not a typical visitor. I visit a lot, so if it's down, I'll just ride it next time. But I'm not a typical visitor. Honestly, I don't think it would be a huge sin if it's not open on Friday. I think people would be disappointed. The real test is Saturday. There are people that, they don't care if it's opening day or not. This is their one visit. They spent $60 to get into the park, and the Beast is a star attraction, and they didn't know that it wasn't going to be open. Those are the people that are getting screwed.
Yeah, they probably would have planned another time if they could to come visit Kings Island if the Beast was, very important to their visit. But again, we don't know. Hopeful that it will be open, and maybe we'll see the park put out some videos or something of the different rides being tested, and this is one of them. That'll be great. It'll be exciting. If I had to predict whether it will or it won't, I'm going to lean on it'll come down to the wire, but it will be open.
So you think that they won't have a definitive answer till like the Thursday before, maybe?
I think it'll be like that Tuesday, Wednesday, a couple days before they really know if it will. If we don't know if those pictures were taken in February or were they taken, March 18th. If it was March 18th range when those photos were taken, then it's going to be close. But that's what we were trying to get answers for because nobody knew, and people were, hey, wait a minute, we're about 3 weeks away from opening day. What's happening here? Is this thing going to be ready to go?
Let me ask you this, Don. You've mentioned like we don't know if the photos are new or old or whatever. Can you think of a logic? I understand using those photos because the photos are good. They do show the construction's going on. So if it's done on March 18th when they release them, there's nothing to see. It just looks, some of the wooden looks newer than the other. Can you think of a good reason why they would take those photos in February and then not release them until March?
There's not a good reason why you would do that. I thought, they should have been showing this when the track work first began and just, keeping people updated, keeping them excited, keeping Kings Island top of mind. This is something you could do that with, but no, let's talk about, other, different things that were kind of irrelevant to what a guest, is going to really get them excited about. So for me, I would have liked to seen them, kind of announcing that was going to happen. And when we talked about it back in November, they were going to do some massive track work, but nothing was said at all until this is the first thing out of the park's mouth that it was March 18th before anything was even said, about that. I had someone that I know that has a drone and they heard that there was track work going on and they asked me, in February, do you want me to do a flyover and get some photos for you guys for Tower Topics? And I said, no, don't do that. I'm against people flying drones over the park without the park's permission. I'm just never been a fan of that. I'm not going to change now that I'm on this side of the fence. I don't recommend that you do that, but somebody offered, so, the curiosity has been out there about it. So I don't know why, you would sit on it if you had those photos until March 18th. Or even wait until March 18th to talk about it. But it is a question people have. Opening day, 2 weeks from this recording, season pass preview, and then the next day is opening day. And people want to know. They're starting to plan their visit. What can they plan to arrive? What's not going to go? And, speaking of what may or may not be open, the Monster is another ride that is questionable. They're waiting on some parts. So, we'll wait on that too. We did not ask if that ride was going to be ready to go. We knew that it's questionable. So we just went ahead and went with it because we knew what the answer was going to be. So we just wanted to let Gus know that, if you're planning a visit to Kings Island, the Monster may not be open on opening weekend because they're waiting on parts.
Yeah. Very unfortunate. It's funny because I'm in my head, I'm thinking the social media presence, and this is not necessarily a referendum on the people that do this on the park level because it's such a bureaucracy now, but it was so dead between Christmas and almost now because the new attraction was river racers and there wasn't vertical construction until very recently. And then it went up in like a day. It's basically built right now. Don't you think this would be a great way to keep people engaged, is to do these weekly or 2 weeks beast updates? And then when there's
Yeah.
something to see with river racers, you switch to that gear.
Yeah, you talk about that, show other work being done on other rides around the park. I mean, every ride is getting, worked on, whether it's in the shop or they're taking the vehicles back out to the ride, or they're doing track work. It's not just track work on the Beast. I mean, there's other rides that, are having work done around the structures, and that, it happens every year. So,
Right.
it would be great to tell those kind of stories, keep your guest, advised about what's happening, and kind of give them those first looks, take them behind the scenes, let them go where they can't go during the winter, and show them what's happening. I mean, let's take a park like Holiday World. They've been phenomenal during the off-season months, showing different work going on around the park. They showed track work that was happening on the Voyage. They showed track work that was happening on the Raven. They showed other things around the park that they were doing. So, they're excited to share with their fans what the park's doing, and to keep them engaged during those wintertime months. And, you'd like to see a little bit more of that coming out of the park in Mason, Ohio.
One can pray. All right. I think that's all we have to say about that. So hopefully it opens. We're wishing them the best. But the implication that we're getting and the whispers that we're hearing is saying that it's not a definite thing for 2 weeks from now in April, when the park.
The answer I got from a couple of other individuals that work at the park was, that's a legitimate question. We don't know.
Right.
But they're not spokespeople, so we're not going to attribute it to anybody on that. But we're just trying to find out for you, our fans, what's going on with the Beast.
Exactly. Don, let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell. All right, buy or sell. The Six Flags content creator policy will be in effect for participants of Coaster Stock 2025, with the park monitoring closely what is being said about the event and its organizers on social media and YouTube. Those who have the audacity to speak in less than glowing terms will not be permitted to participate in 2028 should the event return. Buy or sell?
I'm going to, the way that question is phrased to us.
Just answer the question, sir.
Okay, I'm going to say this. They will be monitoring to say who is saying what about the event. But I don't think in this situation that it's a ticketed event, that they're not going to allow anyone to not participate in 2026 if the event returns, because they said the meal wasn't as good this year as previous years, or I didn't like the ERT lineup as well as previous years. So if there's anything negative, I don't think that's going to keep them from being able to come back to Coaster Stock. Now, in saying that, so I'm selling this, but in saying that, if you have someone that's interested in going to media day events, you want to be one of the people invited to whatever 2026 happens to be. Maybe if they do anything, with other media events, haunt, whatever it might be. If you want to be invited to those kind of things, certainly you're going to be penalized if you're not following the Six Flags content creator policy to a T. But I am selling. It's not going to impact your opportunity to buy a ticket to Coaster Stock. I don't think that would happen. I think that would open a can of worms.
I agree.
I'm people wanting to spend money, and that they're not able to purchase a ticket because someone got bent because someone said something wasn't up to par to previous years. I don't think they're going to go to that level. I think they'd like to, but they won't be able to.
Yeah, you completely stole my answer. I was going to say they're not going to stop them from going to Coaster Stock next year. But you're right. If they have, because they have construction tours and stuff, but they invite like 5 people that are just friends with Elizabeth rather than, people that actually can move the needle at all. If you want to be on that list, you best not say that the meal was better last year, or
the RT lineup was better. Anything
Tom
about it
did a
was
better job.
the T-shirt was better. You don't want to say anything about it in a negative fashion. It's kind of sad though the way it is now, because you're seeing these different rides open up, like at King's Dominion with Rapterra and that, and Six Flags Over Georgia with their new ride. You can't trust what the people at the media day events are saying about the ride, because they have to say that. They're not going to be invited the next time.
Right.
So they're selling their souls out to be able to go to these events and just saying, whatever they need to say. It might be great, and they might be, 100% being, truthful about how good these rides are, but people aren't buying it because of that policy now, and they're just not putting any credibility into it. And we talked about that being something that was going to happen down the line, with this policy in place.
Right. It's funny because, and I don't want to I can't talk today at all. I don't want to single these people out. But I watched the media day video from Coaster Studios. So Taylor and Sarah, and I kind of read between the lines of what they were saying, because what they were saying was positive. Like, yeah, we like the ride. And, they gave kind of like an honest critique, but you could kind of read that they were making sure that they didn't say anything negative or objectionable. Like, I feel like the truth really rung through with that, and that's going to be something that's hard to find. I mean, like when we do the water slide here at, when Kings Island opens, when they've got, people with 60 or 70 Facebook followers or whatever, when they're posting like, yeah, it's only 550 feet, but it, like if they lead with a negative, you're going to be able to read between the lines. I think the truth will come out. And honestly, it's free positive press for a day. Then the general public gets to it, and then the truth comes out. Is Rapterra a great ride, or is it a flop? Is it somewhere in between? Is it as good as Thunderbird? We're going to hear that stuff before it's,
Oh, we already have heard some of that stuff.
Yeah.
I've got the, people emailing me, saying, here's my honest answer. You look at my Facebook post. I had to say it was fun. It was good, but between these two rides, I like this one better. I just couldn't say that, because they, but they value those media day invites, and just if you're somebody that's going to these things, value your credibility more than that invite to media day, because you can always go the next day when it's open to the public, and inform your opinion that way. There's really, there's no prize money for being there on media day, versus opening day, so it's really irrelevant on that. You might get a chance to walk around and get some better photo opportunities. That's really the only advantage to that.
Yeah, that's true. And you do get to ride it first and stuff, but at the same time, it's kind of like we've never had anybody that came to us and said, I really like your show because I love Kings Island. It's always, I like your show because you guys are so honest about stuff.
Yeah,
So
that makes a difference.
I feel like that.
I had a media day that I was involved with several years ago, not at Kings Island, and the general manager of the park, he wanted me to find the negative sentiment about what had just opened, not because they wanted to, find out who these people were and never invite them again. They wanted to find out what the problem, some of the things might be about this ride that we can do better. Is there something that we can enhance? Is there something that we missed? They wanted to know it because of those reasons, not because I don't want this person ever coming back to our media day because they said this wasn't good on the ride. So find those. I don't care about it. People, they were like, it's great. People were raving about it. I want to find the people that don't like something about it, and if there's something we can do to fix that problem. We see that's a recurring theme. So some of them, everybody looks at things differently, and some look at the negative as a positive to find out how to do things better.
I completely agree. Let's interject real quick. So we're accepting voicemails. call us at 513-399-7538. We're going to do an upcoming episode where we play voicemails and react to them. Just leave your first name, the city you're from, and up to a minute voicemail. It can be a comment or a question or anything like that. We'd love to hear from you. It's going to be a really fun time. So it's your opportunity to actually be on the show in kind of a different way. That's 513-399-7538. Don, let's move on to some. Go ahead.
You go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Let's move on to some Six Flags headline news.
Well, Ryan, Cedar Point, they're building anticipation for the return of Top Thrill 2, the roller coaster that was shut down just 8 days after its debut last season. In a wordless 34-second video that they posted on Monday to its YouTube channel and shared on other social media channels, the amusement park located in Sandusky, Ohio, they showcased test runs of the ride, intercut with shots of ride operators as dramatic music swells. The video ends with an empty train cresting the ride's signature top hat element before a title card appears reading, "Get ready to go." I thought this teaser was fantastic, a great job by the team at Cedar Point in putting this together. And, they certainly got everyone excited, pumped, talking about it. And I know that they feel, there's no reason that they don't think that this ride will be ready to go when they open for the 2025 season on May 3rd.
Their whole campaign is based on being ready to go, so it better be ready to go.
It all looks encouraging right now. It all looks promising.
I was 50-50 about it being ready for opening anything until Memorial Day or so. But if they're doing this campaign, they must be pretty confident that it's going to be ready to rock. And I am so excited for it because I did not get to ride it last year. It's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, Tony Clark had spoke at the Ace No Coaster Con in Chicago in January. And afterward, Marcus LeShock from WGN did an interview with him. And one of his questions that he had for Tony was, when's it going to open? Is it going to be ready on opening day? And Tony said, that's the plan. That's what we're shooting for. So May 3rd, mark your calendars. Everything right now points to Top Thrill 2 being ready to go on that date. But if it's not, give the park a break. But because it appears that if it's not May 3rd, it's going to be, right around that time.
Well, and if it goes up and goes down for a long time again, it's not your problem because you're the consumer and they're the producer, but you got to feel a little sorry for them at that point if they start having long downtime again.
I'm optimistic about it.
I'm super excited. I really want to go up there and check it out because it was only open for like 6 days last year.
8. Don't short them.
8 days. Sorry, I don't count the Sunday. That's the Lord's Day. Don, tell them about the t-shirts.
Tower Topics t-shirts available in a wicked green color this year, just $22. Any size that you need. If you're interested in one, just send me an email at donhelbig@themeparksbydon.com, or you can send us a message on our X, which is Tower_Topics. If you're not following us on X, you certainly should. And we'll send you a QR code once the transaction goes through. Just a matter of days to get your shirt.
Yeah, order now so you can have them in time for Coaster Stock. We'd love to see as many Tower Topics t-shirts as possible at Coaster Stock. We'll be right back with the listener questions. All right, first listener question, Jacob from Louisville, Kentucky. Kentucky represent. He said, "Hi, Don and Ryan. Years ago, I was on the Eiffel Tower and noticed many park employees heading into a door in the behind-the-scenes area behind the previously Chick-fil-A building. Upon closer inspection, I believe it was labeled the diner. I am curious as to if they serve special menu items or it's just like a chill area for employees to take a break and socialize. I am always interested in behind-the-scenes info. I have not heard this location mentioned before, and info/stories would be much appreciated. Never miss a show and love your work. Thank you both for everything you do."
Well, thanks for listening. I once lived in Louisville, Kentucky. Enjoyed my time there. Jacob, that is the employee cafeteria, the break room area. It is called Cornerstone Cafe. Kind of, the type of food that you would get in there. They got burgers, hot dogs, chicken sandwiches. Sometimes there's different specials during the week that they will offer on certain days during the week that are a little bit different to mix things up. But just a break area and there's outdoor patio seating, there's indoor seating, and that's what it has always been used for.
Yeah, it's what, Cornerstone Cafe now, I
The
believe.
Cornerstone Cafe, yes, and they've done a lot of things over the years that were done for the associates. One of them in recent years was lowering the price of the food for the associates. The other thing was making the soft drinks free. So I think just little things like that, go a long way, and that's where not only seasonal employees go for their break, but that was a place too for the full time staff to go. And I always enjoyed my meals there. I wish I was able to get a dining plan and go out in the park and get some of those options, but we weren't able to do that. So Cornerstone was where I had my meals.
Very, very cool. Thanks for the question.
All right. Next question comes from Jason, Hamilton, Ohio. He says, what did you think of Kings Island's April Fool's post about the Eiffel Tower room at the top opening as a restaurant? If not for the poorly done AI graphics, I think they'd have fooled some people.
I mean, I was fine with it, I guess. The problem I have, though, is they positioned it as kind of an announcement. And I did reply to it and I said, this is great. Now let's talk about the entertainment and the food and all the stuff we already paid for. I think that if there was nothing left but anticipation for the season, it probably would have gone over well. But I had a bunch of people that were kind of thinking the same way I am, where they haven't announced all their real stuff. Like, what are they doing spending time on this? What do you think of it?
I give them an A for effort. I thought, it was something different, than what they have done the last couple of years on April, Fools. That it was something that, if you didn't know the date was April 1st, you might have thought that that's pretty cool. I want to do that. But I thought, yeah, I like the creativity of it. I thought, that they put some time into that they were thinking about it. It wasn't just, oh, tomorrow's April Fool's, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
It wasn't a, hey, we're going to turn the beast around and run it backwards, or we're going to run the beast trimless. It wasn't anything like that they were, trying to do as an April Fool's, joke.
Well, and I think that
would have upset people if you'd have said, like, the beast is going to run trimless, and then it didn't. That would have upset people. So this was all in fun. It was good natured. I like the thought process behind it. So I thought they did a really good job with it.
Well, and I was going to say, like, there's a threshold of how much you want to, like, how far you want to go. Because if it's kind of like, you wouldn't want to say, like, oh, we're having a sale where you can get your 2026 season pass for $29.99, but it's only today. And then it's a joke. People would get mad. Or, hey, we're adding an extra 2,000 feet to the beast. And, like that whole, like, Beast 2.0 rumor. Like, if it's unbelievable, that's one thing. But if it's kind of like a little too far, then it's not. But the thing I did like about it, first of all, I don't think it was poor AI. I thought that it looked, like, at a glance, which is all you really need, that it looked really, really good. But I like it because people probably thought it was interesting, but not like, mom, pick up. You're not going to believe the news out of Kings Island. So I thought it fell into the threshold of, like, it would land well as a joke.
I think if you had to pick the top 10 in the industry that we saw for April Fools, I think it makes that top 10 list.
Well, there were others, though, that I thought were kind of cool, where it's like, it was a true one, like Thunderbird lowering their height requirement. Where
that,
you read it
to me, and I commented on Holiday World's post. I said, this is what great content looks like. I mean, that was such a clever, brilliant way to introduce that they had lowered the height requirement on that ride.
Yeah, because you come in and then they didn't announce it till later in the day, so you're kind of skeptical about anything. And then you read it and you're like, yeah, right, they're not low. And they're like, why would they lie about that? And they're like, this is not a joke, by the way,
Yeah, and Cedar Point had a fun one, about one of the midway areas turning into an aquarium.
I thought that looked like a really cool concept. I like
Yeah,
that idea.
that was well played by Cedar Point. So there were some good ones out there, and I always look forward to seeing what the different parks are doing on April 1st, what the sports teams are doing. So it's always a fun day for that.
All right. Nicole from Columbus, Ohio. She said, I'm interviewing for a social media job in the attraction industry, which is exactly what I want to do. Any tips?
Any tips? Yeah, Nicole, I think the one thing that you want to do is when they ask you, tell us about yourself. Don't say, well, I've spent the last X number of years working here. I graduated from this school with a degree in this. I mean, that's your resume.
Mm-hmm.
And odds are they have that piece of paper in front of them and already know that. When they ask, tell us about you, I think what they're wanting to know is tell them why you would be able to help them. What are you going to do to make them better? Talk about your experience. I have X number of years doing this. I believe with my skill set, I'm going to be able to enhance your social media channels. I'm going to be able to use my skills to drive more traffic to your website. I'm going to be able to increase your engagement. Tell them why you can do those kind of things for them, and I think that makes you a more attractive a candidate for them if you're selling on how you're going to make the company better because of what you can do, not what's on paper, but what you can do. I think that's the way I would approach it.
There's also you have to look up interview questions. I was talking to a friend of mine last night, and he mentioned that he's in a managerial position now, and he said HR requires us to ask certain questions every interview, like
Mm-hmm.
when's the time you've been in a conflict and were able to resolve it? When did you make a mistake and and how did you fix that? So Google common interview questions and just make sure that you have an answer, because he told me the anecdote where I think the question was like, when did you make a mistake and how did you resolve it? And the person was clearly fumbling through like papers and stuff because like they were just uncomfortable. And you got to show that you can think on your feet and stuff. So just be prepared for, the interview questions that aren't necessarily social media related, but are extraordinarily common amongst large companies, especially.
Yeah, I remember when I interviewed for the Albany River Rats radio play-by-play job,
Mm-hmm.
and they normally were an organization that hired younger, cheaper, just out of college.
Yeah.
So I had at that time, I was 17 years that I had worked in pro hockey, so I knew that I was going to be more expensive than what they traditionally had hired, and I was going to have to prove to them why they needed to hire me. Now they knew I had worked in the league for a long time. They knew who I was,
Right.
and I just said, one of the things that you're going to get from me is I'm going to sell tickets for you as the broadcaster. I'm going to have people listening excited about what's going on the ice. I'm going to be able to paint that picture. I'm going to make them wish they were in the stands. So I'm going to be able to between stoppages and plays, my storytelling skills. I'm going to be able to tell more stories about the players, different things, what they've been doing out in the community, just different things like that. That's going to create more awareness for the organization. I'm going to have people, basically what I was trying to tell them was, you hire me, you're going to sell more tickets, you're going to put more fans in the stands.
Yeah, with almost any job, if you can equate it to this is how I can make you more money. That's always a good answer,
Yeah, and I talked about, here's what Cincinnati Mighty Ducks attendance was, a couple of years, before I started doing the broadcasting. Here's how it increased after I started doing the broadcasting,
Right.
and just attributing it to being able to get people who were in their car just driving around, and they just happened to stumble upon the game, how I, captured their attention, got them excited about, I got to go check out a game. So yeah, just use your, talk about what you can do, not what's on paper. Just talk about how you're going to make their company better if they hire you.
Perfect. Yeah, and keep us updated, Nicole. We want to hear back from you that you got the job.
Yes, that would be nice. All right, our next and final question comes from Landon from Angola, Indiana. He says, greetings, gentlemen. He says, he's bouncing around here on me, Ryan. Okay, he says, greetings, gentlemen. In a recent episode on Cedar Point versus Kings Island, one area missed was the food comparison. As a father of two daughters who can only handle a handful of rides, the food is one of my draws to a park. I think hands down, Kings Island wins in this category. As a former Cincinnatian, access to a local favorite like Skyline, La Rosa's, and Graders is a huge bonus on top of the already unique options at Kings Island. Cedar Point doesn't seem to have that local flair, and many of the options there are the food items with a different name renamed. Farmhouse Kitchen and Grill is the best food choice. Access to drink stations, though, would go to Cedar Point, in my opinion. Who do you think wins the food category between these parks? Great question.
That's hard to say. One of my favorite dishes I've ever had in a theme park was that turkey at the Grand, almost at the Grand Floridian, the Grand Pavilion. Yeah.
Pavilion.
But that's gone now. So they don't have that edge anymore. I don't know. Kings Island's food's pretty good.
Yeah, it's among the best in the industry. I will say that access to the different drink stations and that, yeah, it's definitely a win for Cedar Point there. I just think that that's just a better experience when you're trying to get those drink refills throughout the day. Grand Pavilion, I think, has outstanding food. The best, some of the best chicken tenders, if not the best that I've ever had, was at the Grand Pavilion last summer. I mean, those things were, huge. Great meal, very memorable. Farmhouse, some different items there, very good. But I think across the board, throughout the park, I have to give the edge to Kings Island. I think it's underrated about how good the food is there. I think it's, definitely a top 5 in the entire industry. If you're just, if you're not biased about anything and you're just going and you're just trying the different foods and you have to vote. You didn't know what park it came from and they're just bringing out these plates and you had to vote for it. I think Kings Island would be in that top 5.
Yeah, I think Kings Island edges them out as well. The drink stand thing is definitely that's a pain point for Kings Island, especially when it's like I can't even wish for more drink stands because it takes them a year to build them.
A year to build them, and
I did see photos. I did see photos of the drink stand that they're building by the Chicken Shack. Within eye shot of the other drink stand that's the freestyle. Because that's the area that needed drinks.
Didn't they start construction on that last year in April, and it still wasn't done by the end of Winterfest?
There was a slab of concrete, and we were told that in the fall it was going to be freestyle, and then either the information that got out was wrong, or the park changed their mind and claimed that the information that got out was wrong, and now it's just a regular drink stand. But I have seen photos. There are drink machines installed. It's just a matter of, are they going to staff it? Because there's really only 2 that are.
Big question of, can you get an icy there? Because that has become a huge item for
I imagine
Kings Island, but the other parks in the chain. It's it's something that they've been pushing, but I see a lot of photos of people showing their icy cup. I know that somebody got one at Carowinds, and they were talking about how big the cup was. So I don't know if that was something that just happened to be what they had in stock that weekend, and it's going to get narrowed back down to the regular cup size that you get for the drinks and what we were getting last year at Kings Island, or it's actually a bigger cup size for the ices.
I can confirm that the new drink stand does have ices.
It does have ices. Okay.
It does have ices. There's both. I can kind of see the icy machine in the photo, but on the roof there's a Coca-Cola and an icy logo. It looks nice and all. I don't know what the heck took them so long. I know that one of the park emissaries was trying to say that it took them 6 months to put in an icy machine over in Rivertown because of the darn Mason bureaucracy, which means that they didn't want to pay to have it done at the time.
I think last year that I made a mistake and I should have got the drink plan that included the ices, because I saw everybody having them all the time, and wish I'd done that. So if you're thinking about the drink plan, you haven't done it yet, just get the one, just do the upgrade, get the one that you can include icy.
Oh yeah. But also coffee. The coffee at Kings Island is surprisingly good. They have a French roast, and I think the Pike's Place blend, the proudly serves over in the French corner. I've had bad, there's a Starbucks at my work that's a proudly serves, and every once in a while it tastes like junk, and you get that there too. But I had coffee a lot last here, and it was good coffee. For that reason alone, because I'm not an icy guy. I'm not even really a hot chocolate guy. But if you drink coffee, it's so nice to have that, especially like on haunt nights, Winterfest nights. Maybe not so much during the summer, but that extra.
I've heard people talking about that, Brian, that the coffee there is very good. I've never had a Kings Island coffee, not a big coffee, fan, but
while I'm chugging along while we're recording,
like I said, I'm certainly, hearing the nice reviews about it from people that do enjoy coffee, and they say that Kings Island has good coffee.
Yeah. So if you're, I don't want to fall into the trap of people thinking that the drink plan plus is ices, because it's ices, it's hot chocolate, and it's coffee. So if it was ices and hot chocolate, I would have almost no interest in it because I don't really like either of those. But you get free coffee with it, and because how much is freaking Starbucks? Like, you can get the same thing for $3 on the other side of International Street. Here it's included. So yeah, so long as like the plan doesn't get like insane, I will probably never not get the plus plan, because I really do enjoy that. I think it's a great value for the money.
Error by me last year not doing it. I just got the regular drink plan, and by midsummer I wish I hadn't.
Yeah, of course. Very good question. Thanks, Landon. Hey, I'm Ryan Sir. That's Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.